There we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another week of Millionaire Mindset Mondays. I'm Jan Carmanico Reeves, and we're here every Monday night at 6 p.m. EST. And as you know, I'm on a mission to make real estate investing fun, easy, and profitable. I bring on wonderful guests that are sharing their information, their experience with partnerships right now. And tonight we have Rhys Trenhaile. He's the leader of the Vanguard team, specializing in building real estate investors' portfolios. So, welcome and thank you for joining me tonight. And maybe you can expand a little bit about your background and
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thanks for having me, Jan. Yeah, so I've got a real estate team of 9 agents, and 70% of our sales are just doing income property sales. So each agent has a specific niche within the income property sphere. And I think for a lot of your listeners that do invest, they know that there's a big difference between a residential agent trying to sell a duplex, right? And an income property. Yeah, it's a different mindset, right? It's like asking,
absolutely.
yeah, it's like asking a doctor that specializes in heart attacks to take a look at your broken ankle. They're both doctors, but I mean, they do two different things completely, right?
Specialty. Yeah.
Yeah. So my team does specialize and has the mindset of almost like a financial advisor, right? To build up your wealth. And we've been doing it for over 21 years. We are investors ourselves because I believe that you shouldn't just be selling income properties to investors. You should be an investor yourself so that you understand both sides of the coin. You know, you understand the nuances of being a landlord, et cetera. And again, that's something that your freshest investors, your rookie investors should really pay attention to, right? You don't want the blind leading the blind out there, right? You've
Abs-
heard the old adage, right? The wealthiest people have a really good lawyer, a really good accountant, and a really good real estate agent,
Absolutely.
right? And it's definitely true. For me, I couldn't find the great accountant. I had the great lawyers. I had myself and my team for the real estate investment resource, but I wasn't getting the right accountant. And I got the right accountant only about 5 years ago. And boy, what a difference, man. What a difference. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we do. So then we invest ourselves, and myself and Reed Renault have sort of evolved into private equity and doing much larger projects. So now, we are partnered. We call it joint venture. We're partnered with a merchant bank out of Toronto, and we're doing resultant values over $100 million in the downtown core of Windsor. So yeah,
And
that's the evolution of things. Yeah,
yes,
started with student rental properties, right? So yeah,
yes,
that,
absolutely. Yes, and I mean, as a real estate investor yourself, you can understand what investors are looking for and how the numbers work and all
yeah,
those different things that
yeah. It's funny too because your mind tells you that you are dealing with people that have the bad tenants or have bought a bad income property. And then you start having to remind yourself that they weren't your clients when they got the bad tenant or they bought the wrong property. You're just doing damage control after the fact.
Right.
And it sucks, but at least we can get them out of trouble. Like a lot of people end up making the mistake of trying to go through the landlord tribunal to get the bum tenant out. Just pay them 5 grand to move out or whatever it's going to take, just to tell them their options are, look, you're either going to leave with nothing or here's 5 grand. And what ends up happening with 5,000 is it's more than enough money for them to go find the next property to go live in. They have enough for first and last and a little bit of money left over.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll take that over anything else. 90. I haven't seen that full-time scammer that tries to hole in there for a long time. If you go through the tribunals, they can string you up forever.
Yeah.
But money talks.
Yeah.
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 So
And
sorry, that was a bit
and
of
do
a
you
tangent,
honestly
but
think 5 grand will do it?
it does. Well, I'm just using the last example from just before, so about early December. Yeah, it took 6 grand. It took 6 grand. Yeah,
6 grand? Okay. Okay.
over on in the East End there. But yeah, Yeah, that was a client that we picked up crying the blues on a triplex and overpaid for the place. Had the disaster tenant, so we've gotten rid of the disaster tenant, and now he's at least cash flow positive again.
Hmm.
But he's going to have to wait for property values to catch up to where he bought the place for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, yeah, we talked a little bit about before we went live here about what you see when you're selling properties and partnerships, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've seen the partnerships fall apart, and quite frankly, even people on our real estate team have had good experiences and bad experiences with business partners. I think certainly writing out when you start. First of all, you should not be taking on a business partner unless they balance out your weaknesses. So if that weakness is I have the down payment money, but I can't qualify for a mortgage. I'm being using a crude example, but maybe that's a 50-50 split, right?
Right.
Um, if you have the money, but somebody else can put in the sweat equity and renovate two extra additional dwelling units into the place, right? I did a three-way partnership with one of my two best friends and his first cousin. They wanted to learn how to do value add projects, fix and flips.
Hmm.
So we bought a beat up old fourplex, and I provided all the money. I wrote all the checks. They did all the work, and we ended up splitting $63,000. This is going back, man, it's probably about 16, 17 years ago. But we made 63 grand. We each got $21,000 checks from the lawyer at the end. But that's a great example of my weakness. I mean, there's no calluses on these hands. I, I don't pick up a hammer, right? So I've got
Right.
really good renovation contractors that do the work. And in that case, I said, guys, we'll split it three ways. You guys do the work, I'll provide the money. And they didn't have the money. That was their weakness, right? So those are examples of partnerships. You want to balance out each other's weaknesses with your strengths. So that's where it starts. The second part of it, I'm shocked how many people don't get it into writing, right? So partnership agreement, you can go to lawdepot.ca for like 20 bucks, fill in the blanks, and you get yourself a partnership agreement. Um, I love to write out what the expectations are of each party in bullet point form, right?
Hmm.
So the example I just used, the expectations would be I'm going to get the mortgage. We're all going to personally guarantee the mortgage, all three of us,
Hmm.
right? I'll provide the down payment money. I'll organize the lawyers and the accountants and the bookkeeper, and I'll do all that stuff. I'll do boom, 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 boom. This is what you can expect out of me, right? What I
Hmm.
expect out of you guys, you know, the hammers, the screws, the nails, right? And we're going to be done by this date. You can't
I
take
was going to
breaks.
say a timeline. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you create penalties for not getting it done on time. Yeah, so yeah, it's Fisher principle, right? If you give somebody a year to finish the project, it's going to take a year. You give them a month, it's going to take a month. It's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
within reason, it's true. So yeah, so expressing that in writings, never assume on the verbal word, man. Never assume. That I mentioned that was my best friend. Guess what? He's still my best friend because we had it in writing. We communicated. The
Yeah.
first income property I ever bought was a student rental property with my other best friend. And we owned it for 13 years together. Do you know how many ways that can go wrong when you're 20? He was 20 years old. I was 22 when we bought our first one. Do you know how many ways that could have gone wrong and ruined that friendship? But you keep communicating, you keep talking, you have your expectations. We had a partnership agreement back then. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
So yeah, it's that is communication and getting everything in writing. Man, it just solves a lot of problems. And then sometimes partnerships naturally divide. So I own a building in old Walkerville. I initially bought it with one of my teammates on our real estate team. I guess it's my cross to bear as the leader, but it's designed for them to also be landlords so they get wealthy independently. So they don't necessarily stay on the team once they're multimillionaires, right?
Right.
And that happened with one of my guys. And I noticed that I loved this building, and he hadn't been there in 3 years. He hated the building, right? Just didn't like it for a variety of reasons. So I said, hey, like, maybe it's time I refinanced you out. He goes, yeah, I'd gladly take the money. And he didn't need the money, just didn't like the building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I loved it. And I still have it. I got an office in there right now, 3-story, 20,000 square foot building in Old Walkerville.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and we're still good friends, me and that
Yeah.
guy. Because again, we communicated, right? It's
Yeah.
communication. It's always trying to work on what you want and what your partner wants. And sometimes you're going to butt heads. That first friend accused me of taking money from the bank account. And I had to work my butt off to go through and show where all the money going in and going out went. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So still friends,
again,
but yeah, it can get tested.
communication, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Communication is very important. And
Yeah.
I like to setting up consequences, I guess, if you don't fulfill your duties as
Yeah.
according to the agreement, right?
Yeah.
So you're clear ahead of time on
Yes.
what's going to happen if you don't do what you said.
Yeah, and as you get into private equity, I mean, you even get into where you're the general partners and you're the ones who are basically taking on the risk, and the limited
Hmm.
partners are the ones that are pretty much providing the money, right? I'm being crude, but that's essentially what it is. And yeah, we had penalties for essentially malfeasance or gross incompetence. That we had to turf one of the guys based on that.
Yeah,
It was horrible. But we had the mechanisms in place for automatic termination. There's nothing that he could do about it. He was a goof. There were rules against being a goof. You're out. Like there's no argument, because it's in writing. If it's not
exactly.
in writing, he's gonna dibble and dabble and he's gonna shift and weave and bob and no, man, it's in writing. You did X, Y, and Z. It said not to do X, Y, and Z. Those are the repercussions. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Right.
That was not a lawdepot.ca contract.
No, no, especially with my Windsor slang that just went all over your podcast. So what is he talking about? Is he American? No, he's Canadian. He lives on the border.
Very good. So tell me about what you've got going on downtown and
Yeah.
how that's set up and
Yep. Yeah. So Reed, Bruno and I, Reed's my chief operating officer of our real estate team. So Reed and I one day, I still remember we're at the office and I asked a very simple question. And for fans of Grant Cardone, you're going to recognize the 10x thing. But I didn't know about Grant Cardone at the time, or I hadn't read his stuff. And yeah, I said to Reed, I said we can keep doing what we're doing, and we can make our 6 figures a year, and generate and build up our wealth into the 7 figures. Maybe, by the time we retire, we'll just scrape 8 figures. But how do we make 7 figures a year right now instead of 6 figures a year? How do we do that? And it's such a simple question, and nobody asks that. It's a hard question to ask yourself because it's big. But when you break it down, it's not so big. It's basically moving to an area where you can do things 10 times as big with your same amount of time. You've got limited time every day, right? So how do you 10x that time? God, it sounds like Grant Cardone, doesn't it? But yeah, I know who he is, guys. I know who he is. Um, yeah, he's flash. He's yeah, but there is a lot of substance to that. Americans do think differently than Canadians. If we're thinking in terms of $1 million, they're looking at the same problem thinking in terms of 10 million. They just
Mhm.
think bigger.
Mhm.
They really do. It's a cultural thing, guys. So living on the border, you get a taste of that, which is great with Detroit, and that American mentality when it comes to business and investment. And so we realized that we would have to, because we really weren't business partner. Like there was a time where you're just doing things yourself because you don't need a business partner, right? You're just buying a fourplex, fixing it up, and you got enough money for that. But if you're going to start doing 10x, well, you got to bring on business partners again. This time in the form of private equity, right? Merchant banks, investment banks, alternative investment corporations, mortgage investment corporations, mortgage investment trusts. But they not only are at that level that you want to be at, they need partners at that level. They have a problem, is how do they move their money? How do they make money with their money? That's their problem.
Mm-hmm.
Your problem is you don't have enough money to do those big jobs. So if you're just one level below and you're showing competency and a track record and organizational skills, and that you have a really good team, you'll find that they want to deal with you because they have a problem. They need to move money,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you kind of jump up on the gist of things. It's easier said than done, you know. But I started I started the whole private equity side of things 2017. I spent half the week in Toronto, half the week in Windsor, and I am a lawyer. I don't practice, so I leaned heavily on my old athletic contacts through track and field, and my law school contacts. And one of the athletes and one of the lawyers were both at the Cambridge Club up in Toronto, which is the only reason it's not a men's and women's club is there's no room in this tower for anything but one gender, and it's men. So it's playing squash at the Cambridge Club, and sounds really bougie, doesn't it? Didn't feel bougie at the time. But yeah, I learned how to play squash at the club. I wanted to learn how to play, and Windsor's got a robust club scene for squash. And yeah, I ended up really sort of getting into that and playing with the. What I learned was you go during the day, because during the day, everybody who bills hours, like lawyers, they're all working. The people that own the merchant banks and the big businesses, they're in there because they can
Right.
go whenever they want.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And the
Yep.
funny thing is that's also when Gordon Lightfoot used to go in. Gordon Lightfoot, the singer. Oh yeah, he was the only artist in there. But I got introduced to Gordon Lightfoot, and it was just like you're meeting. I was more in awe of meeting Gordon Lightfoot than I was Wayne Gretzky, to be honest, because his
He's
songs
been
are going
around
to be
longer.
his songs
Yeah.
are going to be remembered for hundreds of years, man. You know, well, he
Yeah.
just passed away, right? But yeah, it was a great journey. Like it sounds really easy. It wasn't. It was, it's stressful when you stick your neck out like that. You know, but you do, and you network just enough. My law school contacts came through fantastically. And this is another thing too, guys, is as you grow, don't be afraid to grow with your lawyers and grow with your accountants into bigger lawyers and bigger accountants because they have bigger clients. So if the lawyer believes in you, thinks you're trustworthy, thinks you're competent, or your accountant believes in you, thinks you're trustworthy, they'll introduce you to the right client. So part of their job, if you think about it as professionals, is to help the clients. So if you can help two clients at the same time by bringing them together, right? And now
Hmm.
it's an independent third party of trust that's making that introduction, your accountant or your lawyer. So as you grow, don't be afraid to move up with your lawyers and your accountants because they will introduce you to a lot of the people you want as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if they
And
don't
they're,
move to another one, to be
yeah,
honest, yeah, it's too powerful a tool not to do it. So there you go.
yeah. But they're looking for investments as well, right? Because essentially they're self-employed.
Oh, the lawyers and the accountants themselves?
Hmm.
They actually not so much, not so much. A few of them, one of my, I've got my accountant right now is actually one of my investors in one of our GPLP structures.
Hmm.
Um, but that's it. That's
Okay.
it. A lot of them don't like to invest into the clients because they want to keep it arm's length. If the investment doesn't work, they don't want to lose the client.
Right, right. If you're directly working
Yeah,
with
so
them.
they do try
But
to keep that separate, but they have if they believe in you, they have no qualms of. I mean, accountants know how much you're making. It's your darn accountant, right? They know you're keeping good books. They know you're on time with your bookkeeping. They know, you've got to earn it. You got to be good. But if you're good, and you ask for those introductions, you'll get them. you know,
Right.
and don't try to create a fund that's just like a big ball of fog. Yeah, and I learned this actually from the guys that started the Castellan brothers started Skyline, which is the largest real estate income trust privately held in Canada, right? Not on the stock exchange. And I got friendly with the one brother. He was introduced to me, and we've done some business together with Skyline. And it was his brother that said it. He said, when we were just trying to create a real estate income trust, and we are just trying to raise money in the general sense, we didn't really get too far. As soon as we started saying, we're going to buy this apartment building and we got to raise money for it, boom. Then they do it for the next one. Boom. You get a little bigger. Now you can say, hey, we want to buy this portfolio off of this 80-year-old guy who's done with it. Boom. They could raise the money. So they were raising money for the buildings as opposed to, yeah, I'm going to raise 2 million and then, I'm going to buy some stuff. And no, what are you buying? Is it profitable? Here's my money. Right. Yeah. It's a different mentality. Like if you're in wealth building mode like me, you're taking, reasonable calculated risks and spending a lot of time building up your wealth. Once you actually have the wealth, the mentality shifts into wealth preservation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going after somebody that's worth $200 million, you better show them or their representatives how you're not losing their money.
Right.
Okay, then let's see what the profit margins look like. Yeah, yeah. I had a deal go sideways one time. It was only a couple $100,000, and these guys wouldn't have missed it. And I fought like crazy to get it back for them. And I continued to update them whether they liked it or not for 2 years. And I got their principal back. I got their original money back, no interest. And they could not care less about the interest. And it was on behalf of the guys. We all want to say that we appreciate what you did so much. And we won't forget this the next time you're doing something. You let us know. Right? That's not why I did it. I did it because I'm also an investor and I know what it feels like to lose the principal. I don't care if I didn't make 10% interest per year like I was supposed to. I don't care. Just get my money back. Didn't work. Just, get my principal back like you said you would. Yeah. Yeah. And you'll find most of the times when things go sideways, it's because of gross incompetence or fraudulence. A lot of times when it doesn't work out, and it's honestly, it's failed honestly, you don't tend to lose that much money. It's
Mm-hmm.
when they're sneaky or incompetent. Yeah, that's the people you got to watch out for, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you lose your money. Yeah,
They don't do their
learn that the hard way if you can see it on my face. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
just thinking of one right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how it works, man. As far as the partnerships go. So I mean, if you're doing a partnership with Jan, for example, you've got to figure out what Jan wants out of the partnership, and you got to figure out how Jan benefits you to make a profit. That's how it
Absolutely.
works, right? Any other questions for me?
Yeah. What's your best advice when you're choosing a partner? What kind of things do you look for?
Oh man, yeah, a lot of it for me. So I haven't been. Oh, that's a good question because sometimes you do proactively look for the partner, but I tend to start with the opportunity.
Okay.
So if I see something that I really want to do and I can't do it by myself, but I know it's a good deal, yeah, I'll start talking that around. I'll find somebody to do that with. Do you know what I mean?
Somebody that can fill in.
Yeah, instead of the other way around. And I know it's often done the other way around, where you find the partner first, then you find the property. I don't have I don't have a problem with it done either way, but I would say that my experience is I find the property or the opportunity first. and then I find the partner, the right partner to do it with. Yeah.
Whatever area you're lacking in for that particular project, then you find
Right.
somebody that can
Right.
fill that in. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't be afraid of losing the deal because you couldn't find the right partner. Like, don't try to force a square peg into a round hole.
Mm-hmm.
Because, man, when those things go sideways, it takes 10 times as much time to unravel yourself. And you're thinking of that negativity instead of going off after the next positive opportunity. There's always opportunities.
Yep.
You keep putting yourself out there again. You've got, if you work with us, let's say you're working with Stephanie Alstead on my team doing house plus ADU, right? So that's the burst strategy that works the best right now in the current tighter real estate markets.
Mm-hmm.
Fix and flip, traditional fix and flip, let's say like it's a beat up triplex, doesn't work like it used to. Too many
Yep.
people want that stuff, and it doesn't work. But you can buy a house and add a mother-in-law suite into the basement over and over and over and over. And this is what people don't get. It's about keeping your money moving, keeping your renovation crew active, going place to place to place, right? And so if you're going to do something like that with Stephanie, and Stephanie knows that you're going to, that you get it essentially, that she's there to make you wealthy, right? And in Windsor, you're going to use Stephanie to do house plus ADU over and over. She doesn't have to worry about you running off with somebody else that promised a 1% commission, whatever. If you understand that she's going to make you money through rinse and repeat, and going to make you wealthy, and she's going to introduce you to the best renovation contractors, she's going to introduce you to the best accountants, the best lawyers, the best stagers, everybody, the best property managers, and there's not that many that are good. Like, if you do that for yourself, be selfish. Don't worry about Stephanie. Be selfish. You want to get wealthy, and you start jumping around different real estate agents. You're in the same city. You're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. I'm sorry, Jan, if that's something you do. I don't know if you do or not. But this is why you're nuts. You're never going to get the steals.
Mm-hmm.
Some years, over 50% of our sales are exclusive, in pocket listings. They never hit the MLS, right? Over half our sales. We do a lot of sales. It's in the hundreds. Well, last year we were over 100, but yeah, not the hundreds. Yeah, slow year. It's funny though. We measure market share. Our market share actually went up, and our sales went down. So, but anyway, yeah, you go on market share. So sorry, that's a tangent. But yeah, so you don't jump around different real estate lawyers. You don't jump around different accountants, but you jump around other real estate agents. Do you understand the most important one for wealth out of those three is the real estate agent that knows how to build up your wealth? And you're going to do her dirty and go running off with somebody else because, they said they're going to do it for a 1% commissioner. I mean, you guys are nuts. You can't get wealthy that. And there's guys and gals that jump around, and I see it all the time. But the ones that I've seen make the most money, 9 times out of 10, are the ones that aren't jumping around, right? Like, I've been around 21 years now. We have clients that are retiring on a lake with 7 acres, right? We just had a line worker, unskilled, not a tradesman, worked at Stellantis, retired on the line. He owns a few income properties. He had a bunch more. He got divorced. We sold him in time, but he held
That
on to them.
half.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He held on to a few of them, and he just sold one of them to buy a big Winnebago cash. And he said, "Rhys, I don't know. I'll see you in a year, maybe 2 years, brother." He's gone. He's just touring around North America. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And his kids started investing with us.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
these are people that are ended up with net worths of 5 million, 6 million, 7 million, 8 million. One's a literal ditch digger for Coco Paving. Yeah, literal ditch digger, guys. This is not rocket science what we do, right? Unskilled line workers, landscapers. This is not like, you don't need a PhD to invest in real estate. You got to surround yourself with the right people and stick with them, right? And eventually, sometimes they're not the right people anymore. You might not invest in Windsor anymore. You might need the equivalent somewhere else. We know who to refer you to. No problem. We know who all our peers are in all the major cities, right? And we know which ones to avoid too, especially if you invest in Hamilton. Oh my God, there's a whole bunch of shysters that are income property guys there. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to say any names. But yeah, oh my God, there's one guy that's straight up and good. Yeah. Oh, and he's sort of now working with two younger guys as he starts retiring. So that little group there is good. Um, but yeah, so yeah, as your team, as you sort of grow with your wealth, yes, you're going to want to potentially upgrade your lawyer, upgrade your accountant, so that you're on the same level with the people you want to work with at that level, right?
Right.
And the same thing with the real estate agent. As you do the bigger deals, you're not going to need your real estate agent so much because a lot of these deals are, are exclusive. They're very quiet deals, sort of
Right.
business to business sales. Yeah, but that's at the highest levels, right? Um, yeah. So actually, the one of the buildings we're doing downtown is the Canada Building. It's 12-story Art Deco, 88,000 square feet. But we got that one because my real estate lawyer said, "Hey, heads up." Yeah. And yeah, we did that deal, off market, and that's how a lot of them go, guys. But you either got to be in the, well, it's hard as a investor to be in the know without professionals that are in the know. And I know I've said that a bunch of times. I really hope that it hits home because I'm shocked at how many people screw that up before they start. Yeah, very hard. You can do some wealth. I can think of a few people off the top of my head that a lot of your viewers would know in town
Mm-hmm.
that don't have any affiliation to any real estate agent. But again, you can't move as quickly. You just can't. You can't generate wealth as quickly. And I knew that before I was a real estate agent. I had a real estate agent, Mike Mooney, who's now retired, and he owned 8 student rental properties. And yeah, he got me into the student rentals, and the third one was the steel, which really started ramping up my money. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's the other thing too. That if you're a rookie investor, stop waiting for the steal. You're not going to get a steal on your first one. I see it about once every 2 years, and the reasons is you don't know what a steal is yet, and you have a million questions and a million fears, 90% of which are gone after the first sale. So after the first sale, 90% of your questions, 90% of your fears are gone. But you still don't have the perspective of what's a steal and what isn't. You don't have the perspective yet. So you can't move fast enough when the steal pops up,
Right. You
right?
have to be ready. Yeah.
You got to be ready, and you're not mentally ready yet because you don't even know what a steal is yet. So just work on those meat and potatoes properties, learn to be a landlord, and then you're going to have maybe 2 properties like me, when I started off, and then you've got perspective, and you now trust your real estate agent. So for me, Mike Mooney called me right in the middle of an ice storm. And he goes, "This beat up triplex just came up by the University of Windsor. It's perfect. It's perfect for you." He goes, "We got to go." I go, "Mike, it's like sheet of ice out there." He goes, "I know. We're going to go. So you can
Perfect.
put
Because
your offer
nobody
in
else
today
is.
because nobody else is going today."
Yeah.
And literally, Jan, this Cadillac was like bumping off the curb, trying to get down. It was Lena Street down by the McDonald's at College and University.
Mm-hmm.
We're bumping off the curb. I'm like, "What are we doing, Mike?" And we ended up getting a sweetheart deal on the place. Everybody was, pardon me, everybody was pissed because the next day they're ready, right? The ice is gone, property's already gone.
Done.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of crazy to think about it, but it was the old farmhouse.
Okay.
I ran into this old guy in his 90s, and I never saw him again. When we had a great conversation outside of the property, just when we just started renovating it, and he was in his 90s at the time. And this is back in the 90s, so he was born in 1900 whatever. And yeah, he said, "This is the old farmhouse. This was all fields."
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
said, "You see that house 4 doors down, the long narrow one?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That was the chicken coop." I said, "Could you believe it? They bought that place, made it into a house that was full of chicken shit." I was just like, I could listen to this guy forever, like to think about the West End, which is historic and old, and for a guy to be alive going, that was the farmhouse, that was the chicken coop, this was a big farm.
Very
And he
cool.
grew
Yeah.
up there. That's why he knew it. He
Yeah.
was one of the kids in this rural part of Sandwich.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That it's fun being in the business because you just get to meet so many people. The other thing I love about turnaround projects too is you're improving neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
So I was buying them to fix them up to make money. And then Dario the Italian comes by. This is my fourth property on Rankin. No, my third property on Rankin. Before that one I just described on Lena. And Dario was so happy. He brought over a bottle of wine, right? Said, thank you for fixing up the place.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking in my head, oh my God, like this is way more than just making a buck. You're fixing up neighborhoods. So yeah, the Italians on both sides, they just loved us. Even though we're university students and partying, we tell them, is it okay, Dario and Louisa, is it okay for you, we have people over tonight. What time do you want us to turn off the music? And they go, oh, if you ask them, 1 o'clock in the morning, no problem. Yeah. If you ask. Yeah. If you ask, it's no problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And a fun
Yeah.
fact on that house on 719 Rankin, we got a baby raccoon to drink a Heineken beer. Yep. We're just sitting on the couch. This is when we're in law school. And my buddy
Very
Mike,
good.
yeah, a little raccoon comes down. He's looking at us. He's looking at our beer. He's looking at us, looking at our beer. It was like a TV commercial, right? And he just takes his beer and he puts it right in front of the raccoon. And raccoon just goes like this, starts drinking. It was before like smartphones with video cameras. Like that would be
Good
fantastic.
video.
Oh man, we would have gone viral for sure. For
Absolutely.
sure. This little raccoon, baby raccoon drinking a Heineken.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why everybody what came on here today was to hear the raccoon story. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So that's how your partnership started.
Yeah. Well, no, that one I owned myself.
Okay.
Bought it for 105,000. It was dilapidated. We fixed it up. One of my best friends, who's been mentioned already, he's one of the best landscapers in town now, but he was starting out back then. So we did the curb appeal work because I learned from Russ Whitney. I think he's not really around anymore, but Russ Whitney's book. It had a chapter dedicated to fix and flip.
Hmm.
Like rule number one: don't start on the inside.
Yeah.
You fix up the
Herb
outside
appeal.
first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason is because prospective tenants are walking by
Hmm.
and they'll come right in and ask about the place, and they end up going on your waiting list, right? Because even though you're not done the outside, they already see how nice the outside is, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I did that. I own on Rankin as well.
Oh,
And I
there you
did that
go.
on the did the whole gardening, clean it up, all the overgrown shrubs and
Yeah,
yeah.
oh, yeah. Well, there's fewer people now too that live in the area that aren't students. So I don't know how many. I don't know how many. That was the 700 block, so I don't know how many of them are left there now. Which is a shame,
Mine's
really.
in the 600 block
Yeah,
and yeah, the people across the street, they rent, but it's a family and um they're my neighborhood watch.
there you
So they're
go.
my partners, right?
Yeah.
Sorry to bother you, Jan. I just want to, oh, you are not bothering me at all.
Well, it's funny because I'm Facebook friends with like old neighbors, right? And
Hmm.
some old tenants, quite frankly, from those days.
Hmm.
It doesn't happen so much anymore because now I have property managers.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we were university students renting out to university students, right? Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, one of our houses became like the de facto drama student house. And as they graduated, they put their headshots up on the wall. So we end up with a whole bunch of them up on the wall. But I'm still friends with a bunch of them. Yeah,
Yeah. Fun.
yeah, yeah,
Fun. Fun.
yeah. But yeah, it can be a fun business. Like any business, you want to pull out your hair some days. But boy, the pros outweigh the cons, especially when you talk. Like for anybody that doesn't understand this, watching this podcast, 80% of the world's wealthy get wealthy through real estate investment.
I just read 90%. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's way up there. Like
Hmm.
you got your people that are the success stories with crypto or with your your business scaled like crazy and you sold to private equity for 100 million. Like those people exist for sure. But boy, oh boy, the most straightforward meat and potatoes way to get wealthy is real estate investment. You
Over
know,
time.
I mean, really quick math. And this is what we explain to our clients all the time. You have a $500,000 condo, right? The most boring investment you can think of, right? Just a hole in a, it's just a concrete box, right? That's all a condo is. It's nothing. You buy that for 500 grand. And it's like, I'm just using arbitrary numbers, guys. Don't hold me to this. But if you buy one for 500 grand, you're going to put 20% down. You're going to get an 80% mortgage, right? So 1/5, that's your down payment. That's $100,000. So forget about the fact now that you're going to get write-offs against your, if you're an employee, forget about all the tax write-offs you're going to get. Forget about the cash flow you're going to make after everything's paid off the tenant. Forget about the fact that the tenant is paying your mortgage for you and paying down the principal on your mortgage, right? Those are 3 income streams I've just mentioned now. Let's forget about those. They don't exist. Let's just look at property appreciation. Canadian historical average since 1867, which was Confederation when Canada started, it's a straight line. It's 5% a year. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And if you see the line, there's a few little divots. The one little divot is the Great Depression, and the other little divot is global meltdown. And it comes right back to a straight line.
Yeah.
And the whole point is this, is if you just assume that, so don't assume today's numbers, because today's numbers are not going to be sustained over time. You're not going to see 10, 15, 20% property gains every year. It's unsustainable. What you're going to see on the average is 5%, right? So if you're at 5% a year and you bought a $500,000 condo, the next year that condo's worth $525,000. And you go, big deal, Rhys, I made 5%. No, you didn't, because 400 grand of that is the bank's money. That's the mortgage. And you're not paying the mortgage. Your tenants are paying the mortgage. So forget that exists. You put down $100,000 of your own money. In the year one, it went up 25 grand. That's a 25% return on your money.
Not to mention the mortgage pay down and
Oh, I
active
forgot about those.
appreciation.
I forgot about those income streams.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and the other thing people don't realize is, like, let's say you own that income property for 10 years, right? And for 10 years, you'd be paying down the principal on that mortgage. You have to remember your rents are also going up.
Exactly.
So I'm at a point now with like that building I mentioned in Old Walkerville that I own. I'm at a point now where, and this wasn't true in the first 5, 6 years. First 5, 6 years, man, I was scrapping. I'd make two grand one month, and then something would break because I took over an old jalopy and had to fix it up over time. But now everything's fixed. Rents keep going up. But you know what doesn't go up? It's my mortgage. My mortgage is going down. And so you end up getting cash flows that are really, really freaking nice. It takes time to get there, right? It takes time to get there. But when you buy a property, that's it. That was the price you paid for it. Its property value keeps going up. Rents keep going up, right? Do you know what I mean? So
I know what you mean.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You don't have to convince me.
No, so it's like it's this. You're playing the long game. And this is the one thing that drives me nuts with real estate investment guys that are the get rich quick guys.
Yeah.
And there's a group of them right now that are going down to the States. I don't want to say the city because I don't want to call them out, because there's some nice guys in that group. But I learned to abide by the old Jewish rules. I got 2 Jewish fathers, I call them. With rich dad, poor dad, you've got the poor dad's the university prof. My
Mhm.
dad's not poor, but my dad is the university prof, right? He's not poor. He's not poor. He's done well, man. He's done well, but he's not an investor. And my lawyer is Jerry Udell, and he's been a mentor to me since I was an articling student at McTague Law Firm with him. Now he's at Miller Canfield. And my other Jewish lawyer is a financier up in Toronto. And his name's Bernie Shimkovitz. And if your name's Bernie Shimkovitz, the only thing you can do in life is finance. That is the most financial name ever. So those two guys have taught me so much of sort of the cultural. The Jewish faith is the only faith that really has financial rules embedded into its culture that gets passed down. Right? It's
Right.
passed right. So there are these 1,000, 2,000-year-old rules, and one of them is don't invest further than where you can get to in an hour.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And what they're basically saying is don't go into areas that you don't know. Invest in your own backyard. That's the safest play. Right. So when I see guys going to cities because they can make money faster there, it's like only if you really, really have to. If you're from Windsor and you're running off somewhere else, it's like, you know how much money you could make in Windsor with real estate, right? Where
I
are you going?
agree. I agree.
Where are you
There's all
going?
these shiny objects all over
Oh,
the place. People are, and I'm like, you can still find deals in
yeah.
Windsor. You
Oh
know?
my God. Every day.
And have your solid team right there, and you can drive by your property and right.
I'm like, look, from investing in Windsor, I'm living in a I'm living in a rather large house on the water. I got the tennis court, and I didn't do that through real estate sales. I took my real estate sales and I put them into real estate investment.
Hmm.
Steve Druge on my team. A lot of you guys are going to know him. He's got a Maserati. Sorry, no, he's got a Lamborghini. Sorry, and he's the first guy in town with the new Lotus. Right, lives in a big house on a nice street. It's like Greg Mael on my team. Lives on a half acre, fully paid for a house. Guy's just chilling. We always joke around that he's just chilling, drinking OJ and flipping burgers in the backyard all summer. Freaking guy. But the whole team is like that, right? And our clients over time start emulating that, whether they want the toys like Steve or whether they want the waterfront living or whatever it is, the boat. But it's fun to watch over the 20 years how many clients have become independently wealthy.
Hmm.
It's a lot of fun to watch. So when I see these young guns flying off in 100 different directions, it's like, you're from Windsor. Windsor's exploding in its second golden age, economically speaking. It's one of the 12 pillars in Canada. Sorry, one of the 12 pillars in North America of the fourth industrial revolution. You don't have to invest anywhere else. If you're in Toronto, if you're in the GTA, okay, that's different because the margins are so like there's nobody investing in pre-con, for example, up in Toronto right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, and nobody's buying. So the pre-con guys have shifted to. I'm trying to convince them to come down to Windsor, but they've shifted heavily to Calgary. Now they've exhausted Calgary,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So, but it made sense to go to Calgary, and they didn't screw up. They stuck with their real estate agent. Their real estate agent partnered with other friends of mine, real estate agents in Calgary. So they split commissions and they took care of those investors together to make sure they were okay. You see what I mean?
Hmm.
So this is the same thing with the GTA investors that come down to Windsor. As long, and again, it's a 3.5 hour drive. It's not crazy.
Hmm.
There's a problem with your property. You can get down, and it's breakfast. You can get down there by lunch.
Right.
Not the
Right.
end of the world.
Yeah.
That's super far away at that point.
Right.
But as long as you set yourself up with a good team, you don't have to be down here too much. But I still recommend to the GTA folk, you guys still come down here once every 6 months. Check on your portfolio.
Partner with somebody in Windsor, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Boots on
Well,
the ground,
we
right?
see that we see that quite a bit as well. We've got
Hmm.
somebody who's from the Ottawa region.
Hmm.
She's working with um, she's working with a guy in Windsor, and that's actually working out pretty well. Another one, funnily enough, another woman in Toronto. She JV'd with somebody else that didn't work out, so she's taken over the project. So it doesn't always work out.
No, no,
Partnerships, yeah.
but it is good to have somebody local
Well, sure, yeah.
as
Then
part
we
of your
took that
project.
over when the partnership was falling apart. She bought it with somebody else,
Hmm.
and so we brought in, and that guy was supposed to do the renovation work. So then somebody suggested she talk to us because one of the things we're known for is damage mitigation. So when you're up Shit's Creek without a paddle, we get the call. Like if you could see how often we have to fix other investors' problems from
Partnerships.
other well,
Yeah.
just from other real estate agents that started with a residential agent or something, and it's like it is continuous fixing those problems and getting them back on the rails. But what I love is how many of them continue to invest.
Hmm.
You got slapped in the face, you got smacked, and you come back for more, but you improve your game. You get the right people around you the second time. And they keep going. I respect those people. I mean, we feel obligated at that point to make sure that they get wealthy. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because man, they've already gone through the ringer. They shouldn't have gone through the ringer. Now they found the right people. Like, let's get them wealthy, man. They're sticking this out. Like it's just
Yeah,
that grit,
they believe in
resilience.
investing. It's just they had a
Oh yeah,
bad team member, right?
we had a Chinese couple. I think they're still working with us. I mean, I don't keep track of everybody because we've got 9 agents. But they bought a duplex in Toronto. First investment property they ever bought. Turns out it wasn't a duplex. That was an illegal unit, second unit. So the city shuts it down on them. They lose 60 grand. And they were still positive as positive. We're gonna make it up with you guys down in Windsor, right? And it's just like, man, and that was 60 grand then is like 120 grand now. When you
Hmm.
talk about the relevance and the inflation, etc. And yeah, so it's yeah, you just want to take care. You want to take care of all your clients, but I mean, when they take a crap kicking like that, it's like, let's make sure we take care of them. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, we've seen some bad partnerships over the years for sure. But mostly good. I'd say mostly good. When you're both making money, that solves a lot of the problems.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
profits cures a lot of ills between partnerships, right? Yeah, Greg Mael, my teammate and I just did a smaller change of use downtown. So we took an old two-story bar and we converted it to for residential. And
Hmm.
then we kept the old original Naval Club and Nigerian restaurants moved in there that also does catering. So by the
Okay.
way, guys, if you rent out to a restaurant, there's 6 check marks you got to look for. The one is, are they on a street corner? Is there parking? Is it a busy road? Are they doing something unique? Oh, I'm on the spot. And 2 others that I've forgotten. Well, we've got the checklist, and they hit all those check marks. So do they have catering? Because catering cures a lot of problems with restaurants because they're always making money on the catering. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Are they social media savvy? I think that's another one, right? Because that leads to skip the dishes or
proper advertising stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
experience. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Business plan.
yeah, business plan experience. Yeah. Well, we
Hmm.
grab a lot of them from the small business center.
Okay.
And we've got one agent on the team specifically that just specializes in small business.
Hmm.
And yeah, so she works with small business centers. So a lot of them come complete with business plans, etc.
Hmm.
And then we get experienced people too. You just know sometimes,
Yeah.
you but yeah, coming back to so Greg and I did that one. It wasn't enjoyable. We bought that place. The numbers made sense. And what we didn't realize at the time is how difficult it is to go through the change of use. I've always bought a beat up fourplex, kept it a fourplex.
Hmm.
I've always bought, beat up properties, kept them. As soon as you change the use from commercial to residential, now you're in the maw of the bureaucracy. And that's not fun. That is not fun, man. I'm going through it on a couple other properties too, but on those properties, now that we've already gone through it, we were prepared for that. And in fairness, they've sped up the systems, but it's still a royal pain in the butt. It really is.
Yeah.
And so you've got to keep carrying costs for basically 2 years. You're going to go through 2 years of bureaucracy. So you
Hmm.
got to make sure that your profit margin accommodates for all.
Carry it. Yeah.
Sure. And so looking back, change of use, I would have had it rented out and kept it rented out until such time, even if it was a cheap rent, even if I said, okay, you guys can have the whole place for $1,000.
Yeah.
Not only am I now getting that 1,000 every month, I'm paying $1,000 less in occupancy insurance.
Exactly.
right? So
Exactly.
it's a net
Yeah.
gain of 24,000 a year.
Yeah.
So you
Exactly.
learn these things sometimes by doing, guys. But I mean, I got a lot of experience, and I still change of use is totally new in Windsor. Who's going to go to the expense of changing empty commercial to residential? Forget it. But now it makes sense if you know
Right.
which buildings to go for and which ones to avoid.
Right.
But yeah, and again, downtown, I'm not going to say any names. There are investors that sort of know better and kind of just don't have a dedicated real estate agent that knows what they're doing,
Hmm.
right? With these projects. And I still remember two prominent investors buying properties downtown, like, so, office buildings that were mostly empty. And we'd already done the math. We'd done the analysis, the mathematics. We said, oh, no, that doesn't make sense. That one doesn't make sense. We're going to buy this one, and this one. And we were the first ones downtown doing that. And then there was a next wave after us about 6 months later, and they're buying up these properties that we had disqualified because they weren't profitable to do. And I'm calling up Reed, my chief operating officer. I'm like, oh my God, Reed, we must have screwed up the numbers. Because, so and so's buying this one and so and so's buying that one. We must have screwed up the numbers. No, we didn't. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, if you look on the MLS, I don't have to say the names, just look up some of the expensive buildings for sale downtown, look at the photos. And you can guess which ones are totally screwed. But they
You're
don't, they
trying to
flip and
offload
flop.
them now. Yeah.
Yeah, but they flip and flop with different real estate agents, right? And that's what you get, man. You don't have
Hmm.
anybody doing the numbers for you that knows how to do the numbers. There's us and one other group that could do it for you, crunch the numbers properly. That's it. Yeah. And I'm not going to say their names because they're competition, but they're really good guys. We work with them all the time. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, I think we're just about out of time here, so that flew by. And I want to thank you again for joining and your experiences with
Yeah.
partnerships. Windsor, we love Windsor.
I
Investment.
hope that really helps some of your investors on mindset because I'm at a point in my career where I've got very little to gain. Like I'm on my way regardless. My team's established. So I'm not saying this to get another commission.
Hmm.
It's just, I'm not at that. I'm so far beyond that point. We're not hungry. I mean, in December, my 8 agents did just 4.87% of market share of sales in sort of LaSalle, Windsor, Tecumseh, Lakeshore in December. That's 8 agents out of 1,680.
Yeah,
They did one out of every 20 deals.
yeah.
So, like, this isn't some hunger thing. Oh, I need a commission. I'm going to make up some BS on this podcast. It's like, no, like, this is for you guys. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. This is for you guys. The advice I'm giving. This is Grandpa Reese telling his grandpa stories. I've gone through it. I'm 49 now. I started investing in real estate at 22. 22. So I've been doing this for a long time as an investor. And I've 21 years as a real estate agent,
Yeah.
and I'm a lawyer, and as much as we're doing this podcast right now, I'm asked to be a guest speaker for the Canadian Alternative Investment Association, and everything in between, because it's funny, you're never a sage in your own backyard. Toronto investors think I walk on water. Windsor people are like, oh yeah, you're that guy. Yeah,
Yeah, whatever.
you're always talking. You're always talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard to convince Windsor people to invest in Windsor compared to the Toronto. It's not that they're more sophisticated. It's just, yeah, there's that saying that you're never a sage in your own backyard.
Exactly. Well, I mean, what do you live less
Yeah,
than
we live
five
near
minutes
each
away
other.
from me, and we didn't even know each other. It's through somebody in Barrie who knew somebody in
Yeah,
Ottawa who knew you.
yeah.
I'm like,
Oh, yeah, yeah. You got to go on Jan's podcast. I'm like, oh, good. Yeah, where's Jan? Oh, well, she invests in Windsor. Oh, cool. Okay. Where's she from? Yeah, she lives down there. Yeah, like 3 blocks away from me.
right? Yeah. I'm like, I can't believe I've never crossed paths with
I know that's what I said. How does that happen?
him.
Honest to God,
So
man.
funny.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Well, we're gonna grab a coffee, right? We'll get that done.
we are
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank
Again,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you for
you
having me on.
for
Yeah.
our listeners for joining us tonight, and we'll see you all on the next show.